Hello, my name is Desiree Anderson, and my presentation is about the Harlem Renaissance author named Alice Moore Dunbar-Nelson. And the poem I choose is called I Sit and Sew. The biography of Alice Moore Dunbar-Nelson. She is a very important African American poet, journalist, educator, and activist who played a significant role in early 20th century Black literature and civil rights movements. She was born from 1875 and died 1935. She was born in New Orleans, Louisiana. She was of mixed African American, Native American, and European descent. She graduated from Straight University, now called Dillard University, and became a teacher, one of the few professional careers open to Black women at the time. Her literary career had started when she was in her 20s. Her first book, Violence and Other Tales, first made published in 1895 when she was just 20 years old. It contained short stories, poetry, and essays about the lives and struggles of African Americans, especially women. She was part of the Harlem Renaissance generation, though her literary career began earlier, during the late 19th and early 20th century. Her writing often explored themes of race, gender, and identity, as well as the challenges facing Black women in segregated and male-centered society. In her life, she was married to Paul Laurence Dunbar. He was also a famous poet, and they got married in 1898. Although she was married to Paul Laurence Dunbar, the marriage was troubled. Dunbar was abusive and struggled with alcoholism, and they separated after a few years, though she kept his last name. Dunbar-Nelson was deeply involved in civil rights and women's rights activism. She worked with organizations like the NAACP and the National Association of Colored Women, abbreviated NACW. She also campaigned for women's suffrage and was active in the Delaware Association of Colored Women. In addition, she was a journalist and editor, contributing to Black newspapers and writing about racial injustice, education, and social reform. One of her legacies is Alice Dunbar Nelson is remembered as one of the first generations of African American women writers to gain national recognition. Her work paved the way for later Black women writers like Zora Neale Hurston and Toni Morrison. Her diaries and essays discovered after her death revealed her sharp intellect, social insight, and commitment to equality. Her connection to the Harlem Renaissance and WPA. How does she fit into the Harlem Renaissance? Well, Alice Moore Dunbar Nelson began her career before the Harlem Renaissance, 1890s versus the 1920s and 1930s. She greatly influenced the writers of that movement. She bridged the late 19th century realism and the Harlem Renaissance celebration of Black identity. She worked focused on racial pride, women's independence, and social justice, themes that became central to the Harlem Renaissance. She also mentored and collaborated with younger Harlem Renaissance writers through her journalism, activism, and literary networks. So while she wasn't at the center of the movement like Langston or Zora She was a pioneer whose work and ideas laid the groundwork for them. Did she work for the WPA? Yes. During the Great Depression, Dunbar-Nelson worked for the Works Progress Administration and the Federal's Writers Project. She was part of efforts to document African American life and folklore, collecting stories and contributing to social research. This work connected her to the broader literary community of the 1930s and helped preserve Black oral traditions and cultural histories. Did she have a sponsor? Well, not in a traditional sense. Unlike some Harlem Renaissance artists, Dunbar-Nelson did not have a single wealthy sponsor. She supported herself mainly through teaching, journalism, and activism. Her sponsors were more like networks of women's organizations and Black newspapers that gave her platforms to publish and speak. How is she perceived today? Today, scholars recognize her as the pioneering Black feminist voice and an important bridge between the 19th century and the Harlem Renaissance writers. Her work is valued for its honesty about gender, race, and colorism, and for showing the complex lives of Black women. Her rediscovered diaries have made her a symbol of intellectual courage and female empowerment in African American history. The poem I selected to analyze is called I Sit in Soul, and she written this poem in 1918, and this is one of her most famous poems. Let's begin. I sit in soul, a useless task it seems. My hands grown tired, my head weighed down with dreams. My pen lay a war, the martial trend of men. Grim face, stern eye, gazing beyond the ken of lesser souls whose eyes have not seen death, nor learned to hold their lives but as breath. But I must sit and sow. I sit and sow, my heart aches with desire. The pageant terrible, the fiercely pouring fire on a wasted fields and withering grotesque things. Once men, my soul in pity flings, appealing cries, yearning only to go. There in that holocaust of hell, those fields of woe, but I must sit and sow. The little useless scene, the idle patch, why dream I here beneath my homely thatch, when there they lie in sudden mud and rain, pilferfully calling me to quick ones in the slain. You need me, Christ? It is no resonant dream that banketh me, this pretty fatale scene. It still means, God, must I sit and sow. While analyzing this poem, it's saying that her poem is expressing the frustrations of women during wartime, especially during the World War I, who were expected to stay home and perform feminine tasks while men fought. The speaker feels guilt and helplessness. She longs to do something meaningful, but it is confined by social expectations. It's both a feminist poem and a feminist statement about gender roles. Does it utilize thought characters? Yes, in a way. The speaker represents the woman at home archetype, a stock figure in wartime literature. However, Dunbar-Nelson complicates that character by giving her depth, anger, and awareness, transforming a stereotype into a powerful critique. Does this poem utilize figurative language? Yes, the poem does. For example, the panoply of war was used as a metaphor to represent the male world of action. The second example is imagery, vivid descriptions of battlefields, wasted fields, withering grotesque things once men. This was to contrast with the quiet domestic space. The third example, allusion, it gave like reference to Christ and sacrifice, highlight the moral tension between duty and compassion. And the last example is repetition. I sit and sew, which emphasized the monotony and the emotional imprisonment in the figurative language in her poem. Does her poem incorporate other elements of the African American literary tradition? Yes. It reflects the double burden of African American women dealing with both racial and gender oppression. It uses emotional realism and moral questioning common in early Black women's literature. Like other writers in Black tradition, Dunbar-Nelson uses her personal experience to speak to broader social injustice. And this is the end of my presentation of the Harlem Renaissance author Alice Moore Dunbar-Nelson with the poem of I Sit and Sew